Fostering Leadership is made possible by the generous donations of the Foster Foundation and Artie and Sue Burke. Hi, I'm Nick Pileros, your host for Fostering Leadership. I'm here in a classroom at the University of Washington's Foster School of Business. Lots of learning takes place in classrooms like this across the campus, but the Foster School knows that experiential learning is also a critical component of a well-rounded business education. This week, we're going to look at how some businesses are able to apply some extreme lessons in their pursuit of successful leadership practices. We find out with one of our Foster undergraduate interns how an architectural concrete company is paving its way as a national player in these extremely challenging economic times. We visit a well-known Seattle restaurant whose focus on creating a fine dining experience for the customer earns them top ratings and reliability. And another business with a customer focus is a relatively new professional sports organization that is making headlines by winning games and winning fans. We also spend time with the president of a Pacific Northwest airline ranked highest in customer satisfaction 3 years in a row. Okay, ready for takeoff? Let's get started. This week we asked folks, how is your organization's leadership prepared to handle change?
Leadership is about preparing an organization for change. And the key element in that is really around communication and having a shared sense of purpose in terms of where you're going as an organization and a guidance on how you're going to get there.
Regardless of how complex issues are, you really have to make an effort to simplify things.
One of the things that I think helps any leader is if they're really, really committed to the cause. So those are the folks that have done really, really well with change.
My wife tells me that I'm absolutely resistant to change at any level.
I think the best personalities is just being adaptable.
If you're not prepared to learn new things and not prepared to make advances, you're going to stagnate.
The more successful you are, the harder it is to say, we need to change.
You can get locked in to something that's working well and not actually re-examine the fundamental questions of why you exist and what you need to do.
I think a leader that is aware of their surroundings, what's going on, what's happening in the world, what are the big influences, is the one that is best prepared to think about change.
During the recent economic downturn, the construction industry was one of the hardest hit. For small and big businesses, it has been a time to retrench and refocus, and in some cases, ask for help. A contractor for nearly 25 years, the Belarde Company specializes in architectural and decorative concrete. They welcome the opportunity to work with an intern from the BEDC, the Business and Economic Development Center at the Foster School.
It sounded like a great opportunity to help grow our business. I was eager to sign up and be a part of it.
Usually we don't get the chance as undergraduates to really apply our knowledge, and the BEDC gave me this amazing opportunity to do that, to really apply my knowledge. We walk on concrete every single day. We see it around us, but we don't really notice it. This company is great at just putting the beauty in it and really turning it into masterpieces.
Concrete is my passion. I got attracted to the decorative concrete. We are the specialist in it in our region, and we always stay on top of what is new and innovative in that arena. And then of course we have the pine cones, which are specifically called out as Pinus contortus. And the surface here, which is for bench seating, is a variety of different colored indigenous stones to our area.
Many businesses were hit hard due to the economic downturn, and I think specifically the construction industry definitely experienced that as well. So I think it was a great time for me to come in and really assess how the company can position itself into the future to make sure that it can come out strong.
The end of 2009 and all of 2010 have been challenging. We've seen a great reduction in the amount of contracts that are out there, and even in the design community, which we work closely with. We had to really decide, whether or not we needed to hunker down and get through the economic times, or whether we needed to stay on path, or maybe just kind of put things on a simmer. This is the award we won for the 2009 Best Decorative Concrete Project of the Year.
I remember that, yeah.
Do you remember that?
First, I wanted to help them really understand their marketing needs, give an overall assessment of their current materials and also how they could improve, as well as create a really solid business plan in terms of current methods as well as future planning and strategic operations.
Joita's role was to kind of help us to, gather information on what was important to our clients through a series of questions and communication that she had with the design community. We were able to get some feedback on how we can better serve their needs.
Through the survey, I found that a website was one of the main ways that a company is contacted. So I knew it was really important for Belarde Company to take their website to that next level and make sure that they are sending out the message that they are a magnificent company with extraordinary capabilities.
She did provide a lot of information, all of which when we went over her presentation was spot on with the kind of things that I know we need to be doing. To have it all kind of laid out for you in a workable plan, I can't wait to get started on working that plan.
As you'll see from this history lesson, applying extreme lessons requires grit and drive, and the confidence to sometimes follow the road less traveled, to throw convention to the wind, and to do what your gut tells you is right. Gert Boyle is nothing if not tough. The 86-year-old chairwoman of Portland's Columbia Sportswear has staked her reputation and that of her company on that leathery attribute. Boyle has learned several extreme lessons over her lifetime, none more important than needing to be bold and fearless in rebuilding her company to become a household name with global presence. She is, after all, the woman known as One Tough Mother. Gert and her Jewish family escaped Nazi Germany in the late 30s. Although 13 when she arrived in the US, Gert was placed in first grade until she could learn English. That took her 2 weeks. Gert married her college sweetheart Neil Boyle in 1946, and the couple settled in Gert's adopted hometown of Portland, Oregon. Neil went to work in his father-in-law's hat factory, while Gert was quite content to play homemaker and mom. But in 1970, everything changed. Neil Boyle died suddenly, leaving a nearly bankrupt company in the hands of his ill-prepared wife. Just 3 months before Neil's death, the Boyles had taken out a $150,000 business loan. They had used their house, Gert's mother's house, and Neil's life insurance as collateral. Gert Boyle was about to lose literally everything. She knew next to nothing about running a business, yet she proclaimed herself Columbia's new leader just hours after her husband's funeral. Gert's next bold move, if again unconventional, was bringing in her 21-year-old son Tim to help lead the company. But Tim knew even less about business management than his mother. Sales tanked, plummeting 25% in Gert's first year at the helm. The company was heavily in debt. Buyers were leery, and suppliers were reluctant to send material for fear of not getting paid. Impatient bankers pushed Gert and Tim to sell the company, for which they ultimately received a single offer of $1,400. Incensed and insulted, Boyle tossed the potential buyer out of her office, telling him, "Why should I let you have all the fun? For $1,400, I can run the business into the ground myself." Her fortitude was obvious. Her determination to succeed surpassed only by her irascible spirit. Gert and Tim Boyle hit the reset button on Columbia Sportswear. They cut costs. They fired nearly every employee they had left. They learned finance, production, and pricing, and in so doing, they positioned the small company for big success. Profit returned in the late 70s. By the 90s, Columbia Sportswear was the country's largest ski and outdoor apparel company, with annual sales in excess of $1 billion. Columbia focused on high-quality, innovative products and quirky advertising, a winning combination. Her mantra: early to bed, early to rise, work like hell, and advertise. The title of Gert Boyle's 2005 autobiography sums up the woman and her unlikely career. One tough mother, success in life, business, and apple pies. Stay tuned for more of Fostering Leadership. There are some businesses that will go out of their way to create the ultimate customer experience. They rest their reputation on anticipating every customer's desire and having the operational excellence to meet those requests. Our next story takes us to the world of fine dining. At Canlis Restaurant, a long-standing icon of culinary excellence in Seattle, the customer is king.
I'm Chris Canlis. I am the CEO of Canlis Inc.
I'm Mark Canlis. I might call myself the owner of the restaurant. It feels funny with you next to me.
I don't know.
Everyone else out there calls me the owner of the restaurant, but I'm his son, which is a special position in the industry.
Unlike some places, the mission statement at Canlis is integral to who we are and what we do.
To live out and grow the brand of Canlis, the belief that we should put others first by serving and investing in them through fine dining.
The guests expect such a high level of everything from us. Is this extreme dining?
They visited a month ago. They really want a window. Who are they coming in with? If we don't meet everyone's fantastic, over-the-top expectation, then we've failed. And that hits you personally. Birthday, anniversary, a lot of that happening. Some of these people have wanted their entire lives to come. And some of them will be celebrating things that will never happen again. Daughter's 16th birthday. Mother struggling through cancer, might not make it through next Christmas. Those types of things. That's the dinners that are happening around the table. What's extreme about this is to be able to honor those with high enough reliability that you become trusted. And ours is a business about trust. You're dining here principally because you trust the restaurant. You trust Canlis. You trust either that brand or the family or the name. And in order to keep earning that night after night is tricky.
We go around to guests and try and understand what they need and what they want, and we hear their heart's desires and their complaints, and we respond. Hospitality perfection happens every night, and it has to happen. We have to always believe and act as if the guest is king, is at the center, and we elevate his experience and we respond accordingly.
If you fail in the technical piece, it's probably because you're human. If you fail in hospitality, it's probably because you stopped caring at some point. And we don't tolerate
at all
stopping caring. There's no room for that. It's not Canlis. They're a party of 6, and I just know that they're a little bit anxious about it. So catch them in their anxiety and alleviate that as quickly as you can, and know that it's a special night for them.
As a Navy pilot, I was a flight instructor most of the time. So what I enjoyed was taking people from the place where they hardly knew what an airplane was to stepping out of the airplane at an outlying field and saying, okay, now you take it. We've practiced that with our sons. I mean, that's really why we're generationally still continuing as a business. They're doing the flying, we're standing on the ground waving these days, so it's okay. We kind of like that role.
Plane's still in the air.
Yeah.
On this week's segment of The Desk, Richard Tate of Boom Boom Brands and Phyllis Campbell of JP Morgan Chase share their personal experiences and views on the topic, applying extreme lessons.
Welcome to The Desk, where today's topic is applying extreme lessons. Phyllis, comments?
Sure. Well, I guess I'd start with the Toyota example. I'm a member of the Diversity Advisory Board for Toyota USA, and I think it's been well publicized what's happened there, right? Unfortunately, Toyota, a great historic company with quality at its core,
absolutely,
really lost its way. And I just think that part of what the founder's grandson, Akio Toyoda, who's the current CEO, said was accurate. You know, we need to return to the core. We lost our way because we emphasized production, numbers, being the largest, instead of producing quality vehicles, and instead of having deep respect for people, which is really about empowering the line of Toyota. And so a lot of it, I think, was really thinking, who are the truth tellers in the company? Who can really call out the fact that we've lost our way and that we need to return to quality, and what does quality really mean on the line? So that's an example I would give you, but I know you have several and I'd like to hear.
Well, what I love about that one is that within that culture is encouraging people to stay true to the values that have been the foundation, the landmark of that organization.
No question about it.
And I have a similar experience of where recently I was working at Starbucks and had the chance to watch Howard Schultz go through the reinvention and recommitment to their core values. The stock had gone from an all-time high to an all-time low. Howard came back, took over the reins, and with incredible vigor, reintroduced the core values of that company through something called the Transformational Agenda, which in a very strong move was a public acknowledgement of the fact that they had lost their way, and with very structured steps, this is how we're going to rediscover that sense of coffee, customer service, a focus on operational excellence. And we've seen now that
you can really feel it, can't you?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I could say that as a consumer. I can really feel that return to that agenda that you're talking about.
Yeah, and in the face of a harsh economic climate, the stock has climbed back up to well over $20. And so we've seen a sense of conviction with courage, compassion for the people, and a clear articulation of what the steps are. We've seen great leadership in that situation.
Another quality that I think Howard exudes, which I would say is important for a leader in this kind of an extreme situation, is really to have a sense of optimism, sense of humor, sense of, but I think the optimism is important. It's what I observe that great leaders do under these circumstances, is really have that sense of vision and that we can do this and something to really rally around.
And it can reduce the weight of the organization when there is that clarity and that sense of optimism that we can return to the greatness that we know.
Right.
From the desk, applying extreme lessons. We've seen staying true to the core values of the company, operating with a sense of conviction and clarity and transparency within the organization, and ultimately having a sense of optimism that we can return to the greatness that we know.
And probably I'd just add as a reminder to really surface the truth tellers in the organization, because the people on the front line are ultimately the ones that need to really call out what's happening and making sure that those folks have the power to make the change.
And that's it from the desk.
Thanks for joining.
In this week's Q&A, we sat down with Brad Tilden, president of Alaska Airlines, which is ranked highest in customer satisfaction 3 years in a row. Brad spoke with us about how the Alaskan origins of this airline are a crucial part of the company DNA and a direct influence on their ability to meet the challenges of an extremely competitive business environment. Can you tell us about some of the extreme situations that you've had to lead through?
Yeah, the first thing I would say at Alaska, it's a team approach, and so there's been a lot of folks that have been involved in all of these things. But this has been a difficult decade, and 9/11 was a very, very difficult environment. The nation's airspace was shut down for 3 or 4 days. At first, that was terrorism, and people were concerned about flying. They were concerned about their safety flying. But I think that pretty quickly moved to some really fundamental changes in the industry and a really clear shift from high-cost legacy airlines towards the low-cost airlines. Virtually all of the major airlines were in bankruptcy. I think at one point in time, 70% of the seats being flown in America were being flown by bankrupt airlines. So the industry was losing billions of dollars. Our company was losing hundreds of millions of dollars.
What kinds of lessons did you learn from going through that experience, and how were you able to apply that?
The single biggest lesson I learned from that whole experience following 9/11 is take a look at the environment, take a look at what your customers want, what they're willing to pay for. You know, if they're willing to pay $140 to get from point A to point B, you've got to produce that segment for $130. And then you got to have the courage to look at these factors and create a plan that's responsive to the need. In our business, there are so many things that you can't control. You can't control the weather, you can't control the economy, you can't control what competitors do, you can't control fuel, and you can really get paralyzed by those things if you're not careful. We've got a very strong balance sheet. We have a good fleet of airplanes that we think work in a lot of different environments. We talk about having the business weatherproof to downturns that come. So we need to make a good margin, and our goal would be to make a good margin in any environment. So in a bad year, you're cash flow positive. In a good year, you're making good profits.
Brad, tell us about the Alaska Airlines mission and how that helps you manage the business.
Our roots go back to 1932 in the state of Alaska, an environment where it's all about people taking care of each other. And we like to think that that's still who we are. It's about being a little smaller, feeling a little closer to our employees, a little closer to our customers. And I hope that our customers, when they compare what they experience on Alaska to what they might experience on another larger airline, I hope that that's what our customers feel.
Is Alaska Airlines a high reliability organization? And if so, how?
More and more we are becoming a high reliability business. If you look at our on-time performance for the last year and a half, we have led the top 10 airlines in on-time performance in 17 of the last 18 months. I think if you look back historically, my own view is that we were really good at customer service. We did a great job with customers on board our airplanes, but weren't so good at the operational reliability. So we've made a huge investment in this area in the last 2-3 years, and it's really gratifying to see. And I would hope that what we're seeing now is that this on-time, reliable operations is now becoming a part of the company's DNA, because it's really important. One of the first thing you have to do is get your customers safely to their destination, but secondly, you got to get them there on time and with their bags.
Stay tuned for more of Fostering Leadership. Up next, a Pay It Forward mentorship story from the Foster School of Business. 2008 Foster MBA graduate Lisa Meyer also holds a master's degree in chemistry. Today, she is a program manager at Seattle Biomedical Research, a position she says she never would have without the help of her mentor, Alan Frazier, whose company specializes in biotech investments.
I was sitting with one of my friends who is somebody who actually knows Alan and somebody who's been in the Seattle community for a long time and kind of does know the who's who. And he was flipping through the book, and I remember he saw Alan's name and he stopped and he said, "Wow, this guy's really a big deal."
We're a venture capital firm involved in sponsoring life science companies at early stage all the way up to relatively late stage, and we've been doing this for 20 years. There's that term servant leadership. It's a subtle way of leadership,
yeah.
And I know you love to help.
Coming from this, scientific world into this business world, I have this fear that business people are these like dog-eat-dog, really mean, aggressive people, and my experience with Alan was completely different. So down to earth, so friendly, warm, generous, giving.
You really wanted to understand where this was going to go as a business and what strengths you had could lead to kind of the next step. And I remember speaking a lot about those next steps, whether it would be better in business development or program management.
Within my job at the Institute, I really have to focus on building a team, and I pull on my business school experiences constantly. And what was really helpful for me from Alan is you were honest with me, and you were honest that kind of the transition that I was making is not easy, and finding that first job can be really hard. I can't emphasize the significant impact that you've had on my life, on my world in Seattle, on my world in biotech, and my professional career. I absolutely could not have asked for more.
It pays a lot of dividends, a lot of emotional dividends to see somebody succeed as you have, and I have high expectations for you, Lisa.
I'll try to live up to that.
Our final story from the field takes us to the field. That is, the soccer field. Running a professional sports organization is not easy, especially when you have to keep so many people happy. The players, the owners, and the fans. Winning is hard work.
Well, I have the best job in the world. I'm an owner of a sports franchise in the sport that I absolutely adore, in the community in which I was born and raised, with unbelievable partners, working with the most amazing people, playing in the most amazing facility, coming to work in this environment with soccer fields surrounding me. We think of Sounders FC as a club, a brand, really an organization for which we are stewards of for the community, and it must represent our community in the highest form. Whenever we make a decision, whether it's a stadium-related decision, a decision about marketing or advertising, community involvement, even the players we sign or the facilities we use, we always go back to the brand wheel, and make sure that we're continuing to follow the path that we set for ourselves 3 years ago when we started the business. We set very high expectations, have continued to exceed those expectations, and now can start to raise the bar and manage towards the future. I sort of ask the same questions I did when I was running other businesses. How do I find and recruit and retain extremely good people? How do I provide good tools for those people to be successful? What are the goals that we're looking for? And then if I'm doing my job, I feel like I'm staying out of the way to a large degree and letting those people do their jobs and being there for counsel and assistance. The challenge is, how do we continue to win as an organization, and how do we win on the field? There are a number of ways in which the organization retains its relevance in the community and stays as a healthy business, but we're fooling ourselves in our business if we don't think that winning on the field and providing a good product and entertainment isn't a big part of the equation. Doesn't mean we need to win a championship every year, but we have to give our fans hope and give them something to get excited and get that emotional energy flowing on.
That's the jam.
Time now for our quiz. Let's find out what you've learned and what you think you know. Lessons learned from organizations explicitly designed for high reliability and avoiding failure in extreme situations, such as fire departments, electrical grid operations, nuclear power plants, and SWAT teams, are really not applicable to more mainstream organizations. True or false? Recent evidence indicates that the level of psychological capital demonstrated by one's workforce can be as important to predicting success as the firm's financial or social capital. True or false? Reasons for why some organizations are better able than others at avoiding catastrophic failure are not currently understood. True or false? Go to our website, take our quiz, and see how you do. Well, that's our show for this week. Thanks for watching. Next week, we'll look at the subject of followership and the integral connection with leadership. We can agree that all leaders are followers, but can all followers be leaders? How can leaders encourage insurrection every day to make sure followers are leading when they need to? Our stories include a look at the challenges and strengths of the nurse-doctor dynamic, a visit with a former pro athlete who's tackling the leader-follower equation off the sports field, more lessons from the Foster faculty on dwelling near the cliff's edge, and a Fortune 500 view of followership. All these stories and more when we see you next week for Fostering Leadership. Fostering Leadership was made possible by the generous donations of the Foster Foundation and Artie and Sue Burke. To find out more about Fostering Leadership, go to our website, uwtv.org/fosteringleadership.